Hey, everybody. Welcome to Away Games, the Chicago Cubs podcast. This is the week after the Cubs convention. I'm Kevin McCaffrey. I'm here with Adam Mamawala. What up, Adam?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm all right. I am still in the Chicago area where I was for the convention. Where are you right now?
I'm back in New York.
Okay, cool. How's your week been?
It's been all right. I was also in Illinois, as you know, for sadder reasons. I was out there for a funeral. So, in as much as a funeral can go well, that all went well and was as nice as it could be expected to be. But otherwise, just hanging in there. What about you?
Yeah, I'm all right. It was a good convention. Myself and I went with my brother Pat, and then a friend of the podcast, Ken Schultz, was there as well for a couple of the days. So saw Ken over there, and yeah, it was pretty good. You have not been to the convention before either?
I have not. No, it seems cool. I mean, I can't imagine how it wouldn't be fun, where you're just hanging out with a bunch of people who are also weirdly obsessed with the Cubs.
Yes, and it was a very happy vibe, which I think, like, especially this offseason when the Cubs have not been doing a lot, certainly not a lot of fun stuff. It's easy to think the vibe is more negative or scared or down if you're just on Twitter all the time. But yeah, everyone was psyched, and it was cool. It was at the Sheraton Hotel, which the last time I was there was for my senior prom, which was
Nice.
in the same room that the opening ceremonies and most of the panels were held. And it was it was like 4 floors of the hotel were all Cub stuff. Obviously, people just, everyone there is decked out in Cubs gear. Also, I didn't realize, I thought it was going to be like, oh, they just gouge you on the booze, which, as you know, very important thing to me. But it's just like, it's basically like a NASCAR tailgating situation. People are just like rolling around coolers the whole time.
Oh, that's great.
Just bring whatever. Also, they never, I don't know if this is the right information to be putting out there, but they never checked for a pass. So you could have just walked in and like not bought anything.
That's so weird.
I really thought they'd be like checking at some point. I mean,
It's not cheap, right?
No, it was like, I think this year is $125 for a weekend pass.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm, possibly that's why it was so crowded. But they did not check anything, so you could have just wandered in and done whatever. But I paid like a good citizen because I want to send my money to the Ricketts to not spend on relievers.
There you go.
That's what.
Well, maybe that'll be the new narrative. We would get Bryce Harper, but not everybody paid their full $125 at the convention. So
yeah. Right. We only made several $100,000, off of this weekend hotel party. So,
in their defense, I think it does all go to charity, right? Like the Cubs convention earnings.
Does it? If that's true,
I thought so.
That could be. Yeah, I know Cubs charities are certainly involved. They're mentioned quite a bit. But yeah, maybe that is true. That would be a thing to look up, I suppose.
So if that's the case, all you freeloaders who didn't pay, I hope you feel real good about yourself.
Yeah, you dicks, you bunch of jerks. But yeah, it was pretty good. I guess should I do you have any other Cubs notes from the week before I guess we just start getting into
Not really. It's not for lack of wanting other Cubs news, but there haven't been a lot. So I really just wanted to interview you on your Cubs convention experience. So tell me what it was like.
So yeah, first day, basically opening ceremonies, you go in and I think that started at 7. And this is a tip for people who are going to go, because this was my first time ever going to the convention. So I was a noob about all of it. But if you are going to go, I would definitely recommend, if you have the time, trying to line up early for the opening ceremonies. It was very huge ballroom, but very standing room at the back. And I think it would have taken lining up, I think, at 4:30-ish. I'm trying to think what time I exactly got in there, but it would have taken maybe lining up at 4:30 or so to actually get a seat for the opening ceremonies, and then the highly controversial Ryan Dempster late night talk show. So I think it would be worth it, though, since it is like you really are sitting there for the better part of 3 hours,
Wow.
or standing. So that would be a tip I'd have. But yeah, they the Cubs did a good job before the opening ceremonies officially start. They had Kaplan and Kaplan and Kelly Kroll over to the side within the ballroom doing interviews with a couple Cubs at a time, as sort of like a pre-show situation.
Like a red carpet sort of thing?
Yeah, a little bit. It was like a better version of a red carpet, I think. Although, and they really could do. I cannot. I mean, the red carpet banter before award shows, as we're recording this on the day of the Oscar nominations being announced, the red carpet talk is some of the worst, cringiest stuff. I can't emotionally take watching it.
Yeah, it's pretty horrible.
But with what some of the Cubs were wearing, it would have been fun to have someone backstage, and just showing us on TV them walking their own red carpet and asking them what they are wearing.
So they weren't all wearing Cubs jerseys?
They threw on the Cubs jerseys, but they were wearing different things before they put the jerseys on. And like when Carl Edwards came out, he was fully tuxedoed up. He was the best. Edwards was definitely the most decked out black tie formal wear style. He had the black bow tie and everything.
I'm thinking about a 38 slim fit.
Yeah, 38. I would be impressed. If he was.
That might be generous, actually.
38. Yeah, exactly. But he looked great. He came out. One thing I think was notable about the sort of pre-show to the opening ceremonies is Madden came out, and when he's really given time, because we usually see in the press conferences you only see a minute here, a soundbite here, a soundbite there from Madden, right? Like he hung out and talked for a full half hour, and it's like, man, this guy could really talk. I know we know that, but he is a good, clear talker and storyteller, and I was impressed with how pro Madden the response was too. That's
good, because sometimes I feel like he thinks so highly of the sound of his own voice that he doesn't always think through answers before they come out of his mouth. So it's good to know that he sounded like he had maybe either had given some thought to his answers or was just like on top of his game.
Yeah, and I think he was excited to be there and excited to just get back at it. And the fans were very he got a big pop when he came out. So that's good. As I'm quite a Madden supporter in general. So yeah, that, and then we did when everything finally actually got underway, it was announcing a lot of old Cubs. Some I had legit never heard of.
So they must be real obscure then.
Real obscure, yeah, some seriously obscure Cubs, but everyone got a good round of applause. And then the current day Cubs, as we know, that there was only a couple missing. Edison Russell, as we know, was busy sucking somewhere, and then Chatwood was not there as well, and then Brandon Morrow was not there. And Ben Zobrist was not there during the opening ceremonies, and it was weird because we had not been told that. Turns out there was a legit flight delay, and then he showed up as a surprise guest on Dempster's show later that night.
Oh, there you go. And the Morrow, I'm assuming, hurt himself putting on his pants for the
yes, more. Unfortunately, pants were required at this convention, and Morrow was taken down. Unfortunately,
I recently saw a friend of mine, James, who's a big NBA fan, sent me the best did not play explanation ever. So in the fantasy app for the NBA, Enes Kanter, who plays for I think the Knicks. Was listed officially as DNP hamburgers because apparently the night before the game, he posted an Instagram video of him being like, hey, I'm about to eat 7 cheeseburgers. And then he mysteriously didn't play the next day. So the Yahoo app actually listed injured parentheses hamburgers.
Uh-oh. Hello?
Yep.
Sorry. I think, you just cut out there. The Yahoo app doesn't want us to know the truth. What
exactly. We're being sponsored by Big Burger.
Yeah, burgers are very upset. Man, Enes Kanter's having a weird old year. He also missed missed a game because he feared being murdered overseas by Erdogan, by the dictatorish leader of Turkey.
Well, perhaps when you're stressed out about potentially being murdered, you just need to unwind with 7 cheeseburgers every now and again.
Burger it up, Fuddrucker that dude. Yeah, that is pretty good. My other favorite reason for a DNP in NBA history was Tim Duncan DNP old. I think was.
I assume that was Popovich listing him that way to mess with him, right?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
I think that was the case. But yeah, so Zobrist showed up later, and I'm sure you know the big controversy coming out of this weekend came from the Dempster late night show.
Yeah.
I'm sure you saw, right?
So were you at that interview when Bryant made the apparently inflammatory remarks about St. Louis?
Yes. They were asking about, someone asked where, I think, like, where don't you like playing? Or I forget if this is something that came from a fan or if it was just Dempster saying where, what's your least favorite city to visit. But, Bryant said right away, he's like, St. Louis, who would want to go there? It's boring. It's just, and that was about it. And, hello?
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my computer here keeps saying connection lost. We're, a lot of tech difficulties.
What are you gonna do?
We're fine.
Very, very reminiscent of the Joakim Noah comments about Cleveland.
Yeah, right, exactly. It was like more playful, than Joakim Noah's comments about Cleveland. But yeah, he basically said St. Louis is boring, and we are halfway into the next week, and Yadi Molina can't fucking let it go.
Is he still talking about it?
He's still talking about it. He just keeps calling Bryant a stupid loser as of today. On Tuesday, he said that this will carry into the season. this feud. It's like, dude, it's not a feud. You can't have a feud if it's just one person,
That's very strange. I mean, the first time the Cubs play the Cardinals, they'll be standing about a foot from each other the first time that Bryant comes up. So I'll be interested to see if anything goes down.
I just hope Brian asks him, like, are you okay? Are you okay, Yadi? Do you
we always knew that Yadi was very sticky, but I never knew how salty he was.
He's sticky and salty. These hurt feelings just cannot be pried off of Yadi's chest. It's impossible. Yeah. And also, if someone refers to your city casually, not on television, as boring, and you're talking about it a half week later, yeah, your city's fucking boring. Do something else. Is this sticking to you hard? Who gives a shit? But everyone should chant boring at Yadi every time he's up at the plate this year. So
I like it.
Also, Kris Bryant has been criticized, I think, as being a boring player, as being a boring personality. And I think my hot take is, I think he's actively not boring.
Do people just think that he's boring because he, doesn't party?
I think so. But he actually does say stuff, as this shows. And he's on the field. I mean, he's extremely exciting. He has every tool. So yeah, good for Kris Bryant. I love it. Let's get let's get fired up a little bit. And I think Yadi has benefited from sort of the veteran cred, and you have to respect Yadi even if you don't like the Cardinals. Yeah. No, I fucking don't. This guy's an idiot. He's a loser. He's calling Kris Bryant a stupid loser in print. He sucks at insults. He probably cheats, Mr. Sticky Chest. And he's a fucking loser.
Yeah, Bryant has every tool and the ability to anger tools.
Yes, the only, and now Kris Bryant's sixth tool is that he owns Yadi Molina now as well.
Oh, funny. But speaking of people who are perceived to be boring but perhaps are not, it seemed like you felt that Ian Happ had a real personality breakout performance.
Absolutely. Big time Ian Happ breakout. And to the point where he has me feeling maybe somewhat irrationally about that he is going to break out overall this year. He just seems to be feeling more comfortable than he has. He has an interesting personality. I think you saw the art project he was doing.
Yeah, what was that?
So basically, he got together with an artist, and he wanted fans to be able to see the view, sort of be able to see what the players see from the field at Wrigley Field. So he worked with an artist to sort of get views that you don't really see often from photographs and whatever, basically from the perspective of the player. And then he was downstairs and signing prints. If you bought a print, Ian would sign it for you downstairs. That was like one of the merch things they had going on. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. And then there was one panel. They have a bunch of different kinds of panels throughout the weekend where they have, Theo does one, like Theo did the front office panel, Joe Madden did a panel, and then they have various combinations of players talking about different things. They had the Hall of Famers, the Cubs 5 Hall of Famers did one together, Lee Smith being the newest one. They had four pitchers. They had Hamels, Edwards, Hendricks, and Montgomery did one. Then they also had one with 4 hitters being asked questions. And in the hitters one, it was KB Zobrist. Zobrist, who, when he's retired, he's going to be like mediating these. I think he's just like he's funny and he's smart. He's a good storyteller, and basically Zobrist is the adult in the room who's sort of like doing a better job than even the actual mediator, who was Ron Coomer, just keeping everything.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. I think it would not be a stretch to say that Ben Zobrist is smarter and more capable than Ron Coomer.
Yes, Coomer, who's a lovely guy, super nice. But yeah, Zobrist was running the show in any panel he was on, so that was great. But it was Zoe, Brian, and Contreras, and then Javi, who I think wore sunglasses indoors for the whole weekend. Javi has straight up diva move. He was late arriving to the panel, so he could get I'm not saying this is why he did it, but so he ended up getting a separate Javi's here ovation in addition to everybody else.
Whether or not it was intentional, I'm sure he didn't mind getting the separate ovation.
No, and it was fun, and Javi was a real all-star this weekend too. Just like just the way he sincerely answers everything in a funny way. Like some kid asked in a Q&A, basically, what is the toughest? How are you a hitter? How do you hit against such tough pitching? And Javi thought about it for a minute, and the kid was asking for more like a mental approach or a strategy thing, and Javi just said, I go and hit it. He said, I try to hit it, and then he tried to expound on it, and it's like simple, great advice. He was like, I try to hit it, and then he drew a box with his fingers and said, I try to hit it, I swing when it's in the zone, and I used to be bad when it's not in the zone, swing too much. I try not to do that. I hit when in the zone. And it's like,
meanwhile, the kid's like feverishly writing down notes.
Yeah. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Bias. Could you repeat that last part? Oh, hit it. Thank you. So he was great all weekend. But yeah, Ian Happ. So Happ was a sneaky great panel. Was one that I think it was titled something like Off the Field or Away from the Field, where they were to talk about non-baseball things like what music do you listen to, video games, stuff like that. And that was Happ, Hayward, and Edwards. And Happ just had like a weird story funny story for every question that was asked, to the point where basically some kid asked, did you guys play instruments growing up? And Hayward and Edwards were like, no. And Happ was like, actually. And Hayward just kept being like, he didn't say fucking, but he kept being like, this friggin' guy. He just kept being like, of course, what now, kind of. And apparently Happ, when he was 3 years old, he's like, when I was 3, I used to watch a lot of PBS, and I saw someone playing violin, and I got really obsessed with violin and begged my mom to get me a violin. So when I was 4, she got me a violin, and I play violin. I've played violin since I was 4. He played in the orchestra for musicals in high school, and it's just like, yeah, he's like he's just got like a weird story for everything, and that's
cool. Yeah. I think it's the NBA, but they did some like I think over the All-Star weekend, like an NBA's Got Talent sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So there's some guys in the NBA who like play piano or they cook or whatever it is. But that would be like a fun thing to do. I feel like for the Cubs when they have their own network and they have time to do like frivolous pieces like that, or for baseball in general. I feel like especially baseball could use that as a sport that people feel like there's not enough like people who follow for individual players.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really did a good job. And that, overall, I would say the Cubs Convention Weekend does more than anything. It lets you kind of get a feel for these guys' personalities in a less restricted in sort of a less restricted setting than you usually see, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
and I always
they
feel
are in,
like, yeah, no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I feel like Hap has been coming out of his shell a little bit, and he's like, because of the fact that he doesn't usually say a lot in interviews, I think people think he's dull. But I've seen him do things on the field that would indicate to me that there's a little more going on with him. Like he's done things along the lines of like a Joey Votto, where he'll run over and get a foul ball and like pretend like he's gonna chuck it 200 feet into the stands and then just doesn't throw it. Like I've seen him do things like that. So I think it's in there. He's just maybe opening up a little bit.
Yeah, totally. I think I think Votto's a good comparison personality-wise, because people just thought Votto was kind of an asshole for the first few years.
Right.
And now he's just like such a strange, interesting, funny guy. And I do think that's, there's a lot of that in Ian Happ as well. So that's pretty cool. And he apparently Ian Happ, he has an underwear sponsorship of some sort that,
all right.
that I did not know, and I forget it, but he was very pro. He was very happy about that. Then someone asked, what kind of cars do you guys drive? And Happ volunteered to go first, and he was like, I'll start so it can kind of go in this direction. And then he made like a gesture of a plane taking off sort of towards Hayward. He's, I forget what car Happ said he had, but it was basically like Honda Civic or something. And then Edwards had something, nicer. And then it gets to Hayward, and Hayward was like, well, the one I'm most proud of is the first car I bought with my money, out of high school. That was, something steady and reliable. And Happ was like, go on. And basically, it got to Hayward being like, yeah, fine, I have a Bentley. And then some like souped up sports car I've never heard of. So, yeah.
That's funny. And I do know for a fact that Randy Rosario currently has a Honda Accord. So for whatever that's worth.
That's right. You have scouted as a friend of Randy that yes, he does have a reasonable car.
Although he wanted
so yeah, that was
not to.
pretty good. And I think Happ does seem to be, feeling more comfortable, which is it seems like Happ's feeling more comfortable, which is great.
Yeah.
Also, and then I did get to ask one question at a panel. I went to the Down on the Farm panel on Sunday, which is about a lot of basically asking questions of about the minor leagues and stuff. And I asked Jason McLeod if basically, when you're following the minors, you can follow the box scores and stuff, but you never really get to hear about the personalities of these guys until they get up to the majors. So I asked who's kind of an interesting character, whether that's leadership or just like a funny guy. Who are you excited for Cubs fans to get to know more about? And he mentioned Cole Roederer, who is a second-round draft pick of the Cubs this past year. He seems to be rising pretty fast. He's gotten Andrew Benintendi comps, and apparently Roederer was hanging out in Arizona at the facility, and he was sort of McLeod described him as gregarious and funny, and he was describing his own background and like telling all these other players where how he came up, where he played in Southern California, and he's like, yeah, I played in Mesa last year after the draft. Where did you play? And the guy he asked, where did you play, said, I played in Chicago at Wrigley Field. And he said, oh, really? And he goes, yeah, I'm Ben Zobrist. And so, like, introduced him. So that, so the question ended up, leading to a story that got a big pop. So that was a lot of fun.
That's great. Even when you're not providing the laughs, you are facilitating laughs from other people.
Got to know how to set it up.
Exactly. That's a great story.
It's hosting. So
it was a great story and a tweet that got some love, which you can see at Away Games Pod.
Yes. We tweeted about that. I tweet about a few things like that. And follow us at Away Games Pod, Twitter and Instagram.
You're really burying the lead, though. Yeah. I mean, you haven't mentioned the autograph you got.
So, yeah, as far as panels go, that was, I think that's most of the particularly fun and notable stuff I saw. Also, Andre Dawson says damn on its own as a catchphrase, and it works. So
that's great.
It's very Ron Simmons-esque, as wrestling fans, and as Ken Schultz pointed out, and as I thought of separately. There's a wrestler, Ron Simmons, went by Farouk in the WWE, and his catchphrase, when something weird would happen, he would let an incredible amount of silence go by, and then just say, "Damn!" And that's Andre Dawson does the exact same thing, it turns out, so that's great.
I'm a big fan of that. I like it. Can you still hear me?
Uh-oh. Hello.
Am I there?
There you are.
All right,
Hello.
there I am. I was going to ask you, you really buried the lead. You did meet and get an autograph from a very famous Cub, did you not?
I sure did. His name is Augie Ojeda, so that was pretty great.
And did you get to talk to him? Was he nice?
Yeah, Augie Ojeda was great. We got to get an autograph from him and talk to John Lieber briefly too. So he was really
nice.
he was very nice as well. But Ojeda was there signing, and people were waiting in line for Carl Edwards. But you had to get in line. If you weren't in line for more than 2.5 hours, you did not end up with Carl Edwards' autograph.
Wow.
So that's too bad. And that's a heads up for people waiting for autographs in the future. But while we checked out that line, we saw to the side, you can just walk up and get Augie Ojeda's autograph. So we did that, and he's a true utility guy because he had every color Sharpie next to him that he brought on his own. So no matter
That's the autograph equivalent of having a bunch of different gloves.
Yes, exactly. It's exactly that. Augie was ready for it. He was super friendly, offering to take multiple pics with everybody. So pretty much exactly what you would expect from Augie Ojeda. But Augie, not a disappointment. He was great.
That's great. I would have asked for Carl Edwards Jr. to sign a photo of a dinosaur.
I specifically was thinking of that. I was like, I want, please sign your name and your favorite dinosaur that you want to get an autograph for at the Dinosaur Museum. Let me, that is ideally what I would want from.
Just like a photo of that big T-Rex at the Field Museum in Chicago.
Oh God, that would be perfect. That's a new goal for next year for sure. So I think that's a lot of the summary of my experience there. Do you have any specific questions about the convention as a non-attendee?
Well, was stuff going on like all day, or was it basically like Friday night and then like all day Saturday? Was it?
It was, So Friday there wasn't a ton official going on until the opening ceremonies, but it's still worth getting there to just sort of wander around. On the first level where registration is, there's like a bunch of like cool merch, like autograph cards and Cubs pins, and just like a lot of like memorabilia and stuff that you don't that would be hard to get a hold of otherwise, I think.
Right.
So you can sort of wander around through that, but nothing really officially starts until around 6-ish on the first night. The second day, Saturday's the real main day. Sunday doesn't have a lot going on. It was just the down on the farm stuff in the morning, and then they shut everything down by noon. Mm-hmm. But Saturday, I think Joe Madden's panel started at 9 a.m., and then Theo was at 10, which is kind of aggressive scheduling because so many people go out and get drunk on Friday that is a tough turnaround to ask for,
right?
For such prime panels. But I think if I were to do it again, that's it like Saturday morning has a lot of the most significant panels, but then it's pretty much done by around 6 that day.
Okay. Well, maybe that's intentional. Maybe they're like, well, if we schedule down on the farm for Saturday morning at 9 a.m., no one's going to come to it. But if we schedule Epstein and Madden, even if people are hungover, they'll still get themselves here.
Yeah, that makes sense. Then they'll go out of their way to get there. So yeah, they
right.
That would make sense.
The only other question I had was you mentioned that overall it was a very positive vibe. In any of the Q&As, did you witness anybody being overtly negative or asking questions that people didn't want to answer?
Not really. I know they there wasn't not many people asked about Addison. There was one old man who yelled at Joe Madden about players not being out on the field for the anthem.
Oh God.
For the national anthem. And Joe handled it really well. He said, well, if you're mad about that, blame me. I don't have a policy, so but just blame me. That's it. Bye. So I thought Madden handled that very well. There really wasn't a lot. I was almost disappointed in it was I would say opening night. So Ricketts comes out and gives a PowerPoint presentation a little bit. He didn't do a Q&A, but he gave basically a PowerPoint about what the Cubs have been doing and basically just like, pumping themselves up. And I do think it was like Dempster is sort of like a member of the state media for the Cubs, where it is like government-owned media is Ryan Dempster, because he definitely asked a few questions that were just like, we've got a great team, and spending money doesn't mean that your team's going to be better. It's like, it probably does, Dempster. So there was a little bit of that, and there were people like kind of a lot of claps for that kind of thing, which surprised me.
Maybe there were some plants in the audience.
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. So, there was less sort of challenging questions like that, and part of that is just because most of the panels were with players, so they can't, and Kris Bryant, along lines of a guy who actually does say more than I think he's given credit for. He did say this weekend that he thinks it's weird and it doesn't make any sense that it seems like Harper and Machado don't have a lot of interest. But he also said, like, what can we do? We think we have a good team.
I got the impression that was less to do with the Cubs specifically not going after them, and more just with the fact that it's a bad thing for the sport that two of the best players
more like a state
of the generation are like available as we head into February. But I'm kind of hoping, just based on the vibe and things that I've read about the convention and stuff like that, maybe the fact that the Cubs aren't really seeming to do a lot this offseason is allowing these guys to feel like they really have a shot at doing it just themselves. You know what I mean? Like, I hope that they take that attitude rather than like, oh, well, I guess we're not going to get the help that we need. I'm hoping that they look at it as like, well, this is our chance to prove that we really are this good and we didn't need to go out and get somebody, and we can win with the same team more or less that we won with in 2016. So I guess I'm hoping it's more along those lines than like when the Astros were all really upset that they didn't go out and get anybody in 2017, and then I think that like caused the GM to go out and get Verlander like on the last minute.
Right. Yeah. When the team was not revolting, but they did call. They called it out basically when they weren't being supported like that. And yeah, I don't think the Cubs are sweating. I don't think this team is sweating them not adding more players. Partially because like, so many of them are supposed to be the guys. Like I think it's a different situation where it's like, well, if they have to go get someone, that does partially mean I didn't turn into what I was supposed to be. I think I saw today, I like to gamble. I saw today on a gambling website, the current over-under for Cubs wins being 88.5.
Oh, I take the over.
I am going to, once we hang up, I'm putting serious money on that over. So the NL Central's better, but I don't see, it would be a disaster for the Cubs team, even as it is this very second, to not be at least in the low 90s. So, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously, I think you and I would have both loved for the Cubs to have made a bigger splash to this point, and certainly to continue to at least have like a...
Hello.
Yep, I'm still here. Can you hear me? I'm back.
Yeah, there you are.
Okay, cool. Well, we can wrap it up soon. It's too much weird cutting out. But anyway, obviously I think you and I both would have liked for the Cubs to have done more this offseason. But when you really think about it, for them to have won 95 games where, a lot had to go, basically a lot went wrong and they still did that. If guys are even having like the 2017 version of their seasons, let alone 2016, I think there's a lot of reason for optimism. It's kind of disheartening when everybody else seems to be improving around you and you're kind of standing pat.
Yeah, and as you know, I think we both are big on the idea that like you should make your team as good as you possibly can. You have the money right now. This is the window for these 3 years. So I don't let them off the hook for not adding a Harper or a Machado, but not adding a strong bullpen piece is inexcusable. But that does. And they still might, so there's that possibility. But all that said, this team is a team that should really have a shot to win the World Series, even as as currently constructed, and we're only 30 days away from them taking the field.
That is good. It seems like it's been a long off season, but now you look at the calendar and it's not all that far away. So
yeah, it's coming. Cool.
But all right, you got anything else?
No, I think that's I think that's good for now. I might there's some minor league and prospect talk I'll sneak into a later broadcast, but very wonky stuff. So we'll get into it later. But yeah, it was if you're a Cubs fan thinking about going to the convention, I would recommend it. It's a good hang, and it's fun and it's a more like loosely scheduled thing than I thought it was going to be in a good way. You can kind of always wander around and just wander in and out of rooms and be checking stuff out. So if you're a real nerd about it, it's a good time.
Nice.
Cool, man. You can follow us at awaygamespod on Twitter, on Instagram. Subscribe. Give us a review. Rate and review. Even if the review is just talking about what you want the Cubs to do this with the little off season that's left. That would help us out. And
you can just put like 5 stars. Ricketts is cheap. We don't care what it says.
Yeah, that's a great review. Would love it. That really fits with us, I think. Cool, man. That's it for me. That it for you?
I think so.
All right. We'll catch you next week, everybody.